Hello, beautiful people. This is Bamby Salcedo greeting you, sending you so much love and appreciation. As you know, before we start, I want to acknowledge the land where we're standing on today and the land to where you may be. I am here greeting you in Tambaland in Los Angeles. And this time that we're together, I want to invite the four elements that ignite our being. I hope that our conversation and thoughts flow freely, like the water, with no limitations or barriers. And I hope that our conversation sparks the fire that we have within and that inflames all of our listeners to understand and to take action. I hope that the wind inspires us all to deliver the message that our people need to listen today and that it penetrates our hearts and minds and it continues to provide the strength that we need to continue to move in this world. And of course, it is with much humblessness that I would like to call upon Mother Earth, who continues to provide for all of us to exist. And we ask our Mother Earth to feed us with strength and power, and that we feed our soul and the soul of the people who are listening. It is with great honor that we invoke the spirits of our ancestors to guide us and to give us the strength, intelligence, and tenacity to continue to move forward in this world and to continue to fight for what is right for all of our people. Today, I have the great honor and the distinct honor to have a conversation with my beautiful and dear friend and sibling in the struggle of the carceral system. Ivette Ale, tell us, who's Ivette?
Well, first of all, Bambi, it's my honor to be here with you. It is a pleasure to be in conversation with you, and it is my distinct honor to get to work alongside you in this movement. Um,
Thank you.
I am a lot of things. I am
Yes,
forever expansive.
you're a beautiful collection of many different things.
Yeah. In terms of my identity, it's very rooted in where I come from. Soy mexicana del DF. That's where I was born. Una mamá mexicana y un papá cubano. And so much of me is rooted in my cultures, rooted in my family, with deep ties to revolutionary histories in each country. I'm also a queer femme, and that's such a huge part of my identity and how I move through the world. And informs my politic, informs my abolitionist politic, very much centered in gender justice. At the heart of abolition, we can't have one without the other.
Yes.
I am an abolitionist. I am an organizer. I'm the executive director of La Defensa. And I'm also a DJ and someone really passionate about music and the impacts of music and culture on our ability to thrive, on our ability to spread the message of liberation and to build community.
That's amazing. Thank you. And you mentioned La Defensa.
Mhm.
Um, what is La Defensa? What do y'all do? What, yeah, how do you do your work?
Yeah, so we're an abolitionist, intersectional feminist organization, and we are focusing on reducing the footprint of incarceration in Los Angeles, and we do that through budget advocacy. So we're part of the ReimagineLA Coalition, which Bamby is also a part of. We do our organizing in coalition spaces, also the Justice LA Coalition, and we focus on an area of the work that was long ignored, and that's judicial accountability. So, judges have an immense amount of power, not just in Los Angeles, but at every level of government, in every jurisdiction across the country. And it's a branch of government that most people know little about.
Mm-hmm.
And there are very few mechanisms for accountability. So for us, we want to strip the judiciary of power. We want to reduce its size and its scope because they are the drivers of incarceration. They are the final decision makers.
They're the ones who sentence people.
They are the ones that sentence people.
Right.
They decide not just the sentences, but how much people have to pay in bail to be free when they are accused of something, but they haven't yet been convicted. And so those folks are called folks that are in the pre-trial phase.
Mhm.
And they are legally innocent because under the law, if you have not been convicted, you are legally innocent. But yet they remain incarcerated because a judge sets the bail that is unreasonable.
And it's sorry that I have to
Yeah.
interact here, but we can see that difference right now, what is going on right now, right? I mean, we know that 19 people have been indicted and they're still out there, right?
Mhm.
And all of our people, or people of color, poor people,
Mhm.
like you said, have to remain incarcerated because they don't have the resources
Mhm.
to fight their cases on the outside.
That's exactly right. And in Los Angeles, about 50% of people in the jail system have not been convicted. They're simply there because they cannot afford bail. Because if you take a wealthy person with the same charges, they're able to pay a $2 million bail or even a $50,000
Or
bail
10,000.
or 10,000. But for our community members, 10,000 is something unimaginable to have.
It's a lot of money.
There are cases where a judge will even give a $1 bail to someone, knowing that person is houseless and has no money to pay that bail. They do it as a sick joke.
Mhm.
And so being able to buy your freedom should not be the foundations of our legal system. And we know who has access to money and who doesn't, by and large. The communities that are most targeted are Black and Brown folks, immigrant community members that don't have the money to pay for bail. And so they remain incarcerated. And the statistics show that if you are fighting your case from a position of freedom, you are far more likely to get your case dismissed.
Mm.
Because here in the state of California, over 90% of cases never see their day in court. You sign a plea deal.
Yeah.
And people sign plea deals because they remain in custody for
They want
weeks,
to get out.
months, or years waiting. They want to get out. They
Right.
might have children, jobs. If they don't get out, they'll lose their jobs. They could lose their children. They could lose their homes. Uh, they they could get deported.
Yeah.
There's so many consequences to pretrial incarceration. And so being able to fight your case from a position of freedom puts you at a great advantage to actually get your case dismissed rather than being pressured because of the circumstances to sign those plea agreements. And then you have a conviction on your record. And then the cycle begins.
Right.
And so that is how the system.
The cycle of recidivism, right? Because
Right.
even once you're convicted, right, then you're put on probation or parole, whatever it is, right? And
Exactly.
for any little thing, you can be violated and then come back.
Exactly.
And then a lot of times, I know that it's specifically for trans women, right? Like, you know, we are convicted and incarcerated, and we are, again, when we get out, we have to go back to the same thing that we were doing because of the lack of opportunities that we have. And a lot of times, for just the general public, right? Like our people, right? When they come out, they come out to nothing. And, you have to survive in some kind of way. And so that's part of the recidivism process that happens, right?
Absolutely.
It keeps us incarcerated and keeps us being part of the system.
Absolutely. And when you come out of jail, even if it's for a few days, it already statistically shows that you are more likely to return. And so, what you're speaking to, Bambi, is the economic conditions that create that cycle. And it's intentional, right? When trans women are not given economic opportunities, work opportunities, folks need to survive one way or another, but then they're criminalized for it. And the cycle begins. And that's not even touching the trauma that happens inside that makes integration even more difficult, right? So, you may go in there already with traumas. because of the economic circumstances that you're living in. But being in these hellholes, especially men's central jail,
Yeah.
it creates layers of trauma that then someone is released into no services.
Yeah.
They're released into nothing. Thank God for organizations like ReimagineLA Coalition that provide some resources, that provide community for folks reentering, but they're few and far between.
Yeah.
Our communities don't have enough resources, and that's part of the problem.
And you talk about something that is very real, right? Like the trauma that we experience, right? Like I can tell you for myself, when I was incarcerated, I was sexually assaulted by another person who was incarcerated.
Mm.
And I know that there's many cases of other trans women and just, members of the LGBTQ people who
Mhm.
are sexually harassed,
Mhm.
sexually assaulted
Mhm.
by both people who are incarcerated, but also, a lot of times also the correctional officers or
Mhm.
in here in Los Angeles deputies, right?
Mhm.
And so what can we do to eliminate some of those horrific things that people experience?
I mean, the fastest, easiest way to prevent sexual assault is for people not to be in those jails to begin with,
Mhm.
right? If we are able to make sure that folks that are not convicted don't spend any time incarcerated, that reduces 50% of the jail population right there. It can never be safe for anyone to be inside of a jail or prison. And the idea that we can design jails and prisons to be safer or to be safe at all is is a false premise,
Right.
because we have law enforcement supervising individuals that are held inside. And the
Can we hold it? Sorry. Oh, it's just this in the color. What is that? Oh yeah. Okay. This is just like the lights are kind of. No, is it good? Yeah, we're good. Okay, I'm sorry that I have.
no, it's okay.
So let's just. Oh, pick up.
Yeah, so long as people are held inside of jails and prisons, they will always be vulnerable to the power of law enforcement. And the roots of law enforcement are not to rehabilitate. These facilities are not for rehabilitation. They are for punishment. They are for torture. And
Even though they sell it different.
they
Right?
sell it differently. But people come out and have less opportunities, have less ability to integrate. They have more trauma. And so we know that over 90% of people that go into jails and prisons will come home. They will come home. So do we want folks that are given services, that their needs are being met when they're integrating into the community, or do we want more traumatized people? Because we also have to think about survivors, right?
Yeah.
So many survivors end up in jail or prison for defending themselves,
Yeah.
for surviving.
I mean, there's many documented cases of that happening, right? Like
Mhm.
how they always go with law enforcement rather than really believing the victim, right?
Absolutely.
Um, I know that there's some efforts right here in Los Angeles about closing the men's central jail. Um, Tell us where we are on that.
Mhm.
How far are we? Is it going to happen? How can people be involved? Just tell us all about
Yeah.
those efforts, please.
Yeah. So I think it's important for people to know who has the power to close Men's Central Jail and why Men's Central Jail is so awful. So Men's Central Jail is essentially a dungeon. It is dilapidated. People are suffering inside of Men's Central Jail, and courts and the Board of Supervisors, which is the body that's responsible for closing Men's Central Jail, and the community have all agreed that Men's Central Jail must be closed. Originally, the Board of Supervisors, and there's 5 of them that represent 5 districts, all women board, they agreed, we need to close Men's Central Jail. We want to build a new jail. We fought them on that. We said, no, we don't need to build a new jail. We just need to close this one. Because if you create more beds, they will be filled.
Of course. I mean, it's part of what they want to do.
Exactly. And so ultimately, we won that fight. So we were able to stop their $3.5 billion jail expansion plan. We stopped it outright. But they've been dragging their feet on closing Men's Central Jail.
Mhm.
And so part of the problem is that law enforcement special interest groups, so ALADs, the special interest group uh, that sheriffs are a part of, they have been pushing against jail closure because that means that they're going to have to reduce their staff, right?
Mhm, mhm,
And so when we think about it just from an economic standpoint, it is much less expensive to house people in the community, to give folks mental health care and wraparound services than it is for them to be in jail.
mhm.
So it's actually more cost effective for for our tax dollars to move folks out of these institutions and either give them permanent supportive housing. Right. Some folks don't have mental health needs.
Yeah.
They just need a place to live. Right. They just need some services. But there are quite a bit of folks that do have mental health needs, right?
Course.
Or substance use needs.
Mhm.
The county should be expanding rapidly the mental health services, the mental health beds, the permanent supportive housing, but they have not done that. And so right now we're in a pivotal moment where we're at a fever pitch. People are dying inside of our jail system
Mhm.
at record rates.
Yeah.
I think the last count might have been 31 people this year. 31 people have died this year inside. A large portion of them are pre-trial.
Well, because they don't take care of people.
No,
You know, I
absolutely not.
mean, like medical services are not good. I mean, just any way that you look at is just not good, right?
No.
But you touch on like a really great point of like for the on the economic standpoint, right?
Mm,
We know that they make money by putting us in jail, right?
absolutely.
They charge for every person, every bed
Mm-hmm.
when we're inside, right? Like, and so they don't, they want to continue to make money
Mm-hmm.
on our behalf.
On commissary, the
Yeah,
amount
on the phone call,
phone calls, all of it.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is crazy, like to think, you know, it's easier, right? Like you said, to provide people with resources
Mm-hmm.
than to spend the money in putting us in jail.
It's a false sense of public safety, Bambi.
Yeah.
It's a false
Yeah.
sense. And in this moment where people are up in arms around rising crime, there's this like rising crime narrative, right? That, the smash and grabs. And there's
But they don't look at why is
why
people doing that.
why yeah,
Because
and it
people
goes
are
back to
providing the
economics.
services, the
Right.
support that people need.
Exactly. It goes back to the lack of services, the lack of economic opportunity. The pandemic hit a lot of communities really, really hard,
Mhm,
and we
mhm.
still haven't recovered from it. And so when we're looking at folks,
I mean, we're still in it.
we're still in it. We're still very much in it. The economy slowed down a lot, and a lot of our community members who worked at the front lines in the service industry suffered a great deal. And so what we're seeing is a response to the lack of economic opportunities, not from the lack of tough on crime. We don't need tough on crime. We did that. We did that in the 90s and it failed.
Exactly. We have this experience of the war on drugs, right?
Yeah.
It was really
Mhm.
to criminalize people,
Mm-hmm.
and it's failed and it's just a horrible thing that happened to our people,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's why we have California is a state that has more prisons than
Mm-hmm.
anywhere in the world.
And Los Angeles is the largest jail system in the world. We are in the largest jailing county and the largest jailing and incarceration state.
And they wanted to build another one.
And they wanted to build more. We're in the epicenter of mass incarceration, and we think that we're such a progressive city, right? We're so progressive. We're so welcoming to queer folks and trans folks. I call bullshit.
Yeah.
When we look at who's inside of our jails, who's impacted, who's disenfranchised, Los Angeles is incredibly regressive, and our courts are incredibly regressive. We may have a few politicians that might be more aligned, some more recent, actually, with Eunices Hernandez being elected to our city council, but by and large,
Isaac Bryan.
and
at the
Isaac
state.
Bryan, yeah, at the state assembly. But by and large, we have a really regressive political
Yeah.
system. And so I want folks to not be bought in by the rhetoric of who we are as a
or
city or a county, because the reality is very different.
or with this notion, like you said, right? Like public safety,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
It's just so crazy that they use that rhetoric
Hmm.
to really like let people think that
Yeah.
that's what we need. But public safety, it's different than what they're telling us it is.
Absolutely. Public safety for me is having my basic needs met,
Mhm.
being able to not just survive, but to thrive. Having a roof over my head, having good food to eat, clean water to drink, clean air, being able to have access to medical resources. If we're not providing employment, if we're not able to provide the very basic necessities to our community members, then what the hell are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, that is how a society should be judged.
And it's not like, you know, you mentioned budget advocacy, right? Like it's not like the resources are not there.
Oh, we're one of the
Yeah.
richest counties in the country.
I I know, like I mean, I think it's important for people to understand that the Los Angeles County budget is like almost $40 billion.
I think it might have been 43 billion this year.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
it's going up. We're getting richer.
Well, people are, contribute
Yeah.
to the, they pay taxes and
Yeah.
that's how, we generate that money.
Yeah.
And so a such a large county like the Los Angeles County and the money that they have,
Hmm.
why is it that instead of really thinking and investing in people, our local government continues to invest more on policing our people
Yeah.
and jailing our people?
Mm.
So what can we do in order to shift that?
Yeah. Well, community members can attend the Board of Supervisors meetings. It's really important that the supervisors hear from the communities, because so often law enforcement mobilizes their folks to like call in and show up.
And that's why they have those unions and all
Yeah,
interest groups.
absolutely. But we have people power, right?
Mm.
We have the power of numbers. They may have more money, they may have their special interest groups, but we have the truth on our side and we have the numbers. And so it's important for folks to be aware of who are the power players, right? Look up the LA County Board of Supervisors, see which supervisor represents your district. My district is District 1, so that's Supervisor Solis, Hilda Solis. Right. So if you are in on the east side, if you are part of Supervisor Solis's district, it's important for you to just feel empowered to call her office and let her know that you want Men's Central Jail closed, that you want the sheriff's budget cut, and that money go towards community-based services like housing. They need to hear from you. You need to show up at the meetings. You can show up virtually. You can give virtual public comment. And the ReimagineLA Coalition provides you with talking points, the analysis on the latest agenda. They meet about every other week on Tuesday, starting Tuesday mornings.
Mm.
And so, if you look up Reimagine LA on Instagram, social media, or sign up on the reimagine.la website for a newsletter, you can get updates on how you can participate. And if there's an issue that's important to you, right? If an issue like housing is important to you, it's important for you to look at the agendas, like feel empowered to take a look at the agendas and see when budget items are coming up that would touch on that issue that's important to you.
For sure. Folks, it's important that we continue to be engaged, right? That we know exactly how our government runs and how they are supposed to do things, right? Like they're public servants and they need to serve the needs of the people. And so if we don't participate, then they're going to do whatever they want to do. And so we want to encourage for you to really participate through this process. Yvette, I want to ask you, what is the ideal world to you?
Mhm. An ideal world would ensure that everyone has what they need to thrive, where our people don't have to be scared to walk down the street, uh, can have not just what they need to thrive, um, but they have what they need to stay connected, where there's an understanding that everyone and everything is connected, that there is a respect for the land, there is a respect of our ancestors, and there's joy. There's just lots and lots of
Mm,
joy.
yes. I want to ask you a question because, when we started, you talked about, you know, how you have, you're part of a Cuban culture, you're part of a Mexican culture. But what I heard was that you're a revolutionary person,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Que eres una chingoncísima, you know?
See?
Um, but we all have a beginning, right? Like we all start, you know, when we started getting consciousness
Mm. Mhm.
of the world around us,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
I wanna I wanna ask you, it's kind of like a personal question,
Okay.
but if you were to think of that 5-year-old
Mm.
beautiful Yvette, innocent Yvette, what would you tell that Yvette?
Mm. I think I would tell 5-year-old me, um, to not have so much fear, uh, that your ancestors got you, that it's okay for you to embrace joy and pleasure, uh, and that you're going to do big things. You're going to do big things with really brilliant people, and to soak it all up, to soak up all of the love around you, and to share that out with everyone you come in contact with. Because that's what we're fighting for.
That is so beautiful. I, you have given us so much power and love and knowledge and just everything. You're giving us everything. And I'm so grateful. So grateful to you. I'm so grateful that I get to know you. I'm so grateful that I get to work with you. I'm so grateful that um, you have enlightened us with your beautiful and beautiful and spirit and light. So, is there like one last minute message that you want to give us before we close our session?
Well, first, Bambi, the pleasure is all mine. And I want to leave listeners and viewers with a few tools. So I mentioned that La Defensa is focused on judicial accountability. We have this website called Rate My Judge. It's like a Yelp for judges. So anyone that goes into a
Right,
courtroom,
you're a judge.
yeah, ratemyjudge.la.
Well,
Go to
whoever, right? Like
yeah,
never
yeah. You rate your judge.
yeah, you rate your judge.
Yeah, go into a courtroom, like if you have a loved one or if you yourself are going before a judge, you can shift the power by giving them a judgment on our
Mhm.
website. You can also join us for Court Watch. So if you just want to support us in collecting information about judges, come Court Watch with us. We run the courtwatch.la website. Check it out. We teach you, we train you on how to observe judges and how to document what's happening in the courtroom. And that's incredible help in holding judges accountable. And the last thing I'll share is that La Defensa also has a PAC. So last year, we got the first woman public defender elected to the LA County Superior Court, because up until then, public defenders had never been elected in LA County. And so this next cycle, look down the ballot, because judges will be on the ballot and most people don't know who to pick for, who to pick.
Mm,
There's no information around judges. We create a voter guide. Check out La Defensa's website. We will create a voter guide, and we're going to support progressive candidates, public defenders running for judge in LA County. So look out for the defenders of justice.
amazing. Defenders of justice, yes.
Yeah.
Where do people can find La Defensa?
Yeah, we're ladefensa.org. So check us out online. Follow us at La Defensex on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, and you can find more information about our campaigns and how you all can support and get educated on these systems. Like we provide lots of opportunities for political education.
Amazing. Folks, you heard it from the source. So continue to be engaged and do the best that you can, obviously, to create the change that we want in the world. Obviously, you know, our time is short, but it's powerful. And so we want to thank you so much for tuning in, for sharing space with us, and for learning with us today. Our hope is that we have given you a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of joy, and that you also feel inspired to take action. We hope that you use your power to change the world and that you influence others to do the same. And always, always, please remember to live free, to live out loud, and to be fearless. With much love and appreciation, thank you so much for joining us.
The Fearless People podcast is a product of Bamby Salcedo and is produced by Mejia TV and can be found in all major podcast platforms. You can support this podcast by liking this episode and subscribing to it. You can also support my retirement by rating this podcast and following me on social media. Thank you so much.